He told us to go back to Saudi Arabia, and he told us that we shouldn't be here and to get out of his country. He just started stabbing people, and there was just blood everywhere, and we just started running for our lives.
What we have is another heinous act committed against a group of people in pursuit of political aims. But at least the American mainstream media and those on the right are calling this for what it is though, right? Terrorism.
Wrong. Joseph Christian was hurling hate-filled slurs at two Muslim women, one of whom was wearing a hijab.
This is the courthouse where the suspect will be arraigned later this morning.
Well, that's interesting. I don't really understand. But, well, at least last week they called the cold-blooded killing of Richard W. Collins III for what it was, though, right? An act of terror.
Wrong. Denied bond for the University of Maryland student charged with stabbing and killing an Army lieutenant.
No? Well, at least the outlets that failed to report the white supremacists hell-bent on ridding the world of black people who killed Timothy Coleman as form of practice corrected themselves and identified the perpetrator as what he was, though, right? A terrorist.
Wrong.
No, again. So, I'm confused. These acts were unlawful, right? They were acts of violence, right? They were against civilians in the pursuit of political aims, right? So that pretty much ticks all the boxes of terrorism. So why are they not called what they are? Why is this term withheld? Are we not putting ourselves at greater risk by not identifying the larger cause of this problem? Radical white extremism? Oh, that's right. I'm forgetting about the right-wing small print about what qualifies as terrorism. Must be Muslim, right? It's about time we stopped dancing around this. Terrorism has no color. Say it with me. Terrorism has no color. A terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. That definition does not specify any race or religious affiliation. Terrorism is simply terrorism. So why in the hell is it so hard for American news outlets and those on the right to call white extremists what they are? Terrorists. When a man unleashes anti-Muslim slurs and hate speech towards two women before stabbing and killing two men who bravely sought to defend them, that scumbag is a terrorist. And when a man travels across the country with the specific intent to murder black people as practice for a larger assault on that specific race, that scumbag is a terrorist. When a man who is part of an online Nazi group stabs and kills a black man in cold blood for no reason other than the color of his skin, then yes, that scumbag is a terrorist. Think about it. What if these perpetrators had been Muslim? How would they be portrayed in the US? As ISIS members, representing all Muslims, as proof of the hate and violence at the core of the Islamic faith? Would they be called terrorists? All of the above in a heartbeat. But these perpetrators are not Muslim. And so the term terrorist is shelved and saved for another day when the attacker fits the profile and the right wing can perpetrate their anti-Muslim hate some more. How else would they be able to falsely convince people for 3 whole days after the shooting in Quebec that the killer was a Moroccan Muslim who screamed Allahu Akbar before slaughtering 6 Muslims in a Canadian mosque?
2 gunmen dressed in black, wearing ski masks, walked in and started shooting, yelling Allahu Akbar,
when the shooter was actually a white supremacist. How else would you be able to terrify Americans about all the potential Muslim terrorists within their own borders and generate support for a ban on immigration from predominantly Muslim countries?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Even though white supremacists killed more Americans just last week than refugees from those countries have in 40 years. And here is what is most ironic. For years, those on the right screamed that PC culture and Obama's refusal to use the term radical Islamic terrorism downplayed the seriousness of the issue.
The president won't say radical jihadists. They won't say radical Islam. The president once again underestimating this enemy.
Yet here we are with more cases in the last 2 weeks than any other form of terror in the United States. But no one on the right is calling it terrorism. No one on the right is identifying the core issue. Nobody on the right is calling for those in the white community to do more to weed out these radicalized extremists. After all, wasn't the Portland terrorist known to law enforcement for his extremist views? Shouldn't his fellow white supremacists have identified him as a possible killer and brought his information to authorities? Are we now at further risk of more acts of such terror because we will not label the enemy what it is? I will say it again. Terrorism is terrorism. It is not specific to black or brown or white. It is terrorism. So call the perpetrators what they are. Terrorists.
I hope that it is labeled what it is, and that is a terrorist attack.
Follow me on Instagram at Francis M. Maxwell and on Twitter at Francis M. Maxwell. Also share this video. Continue to resist.